أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وأهل بيته الطاهرين. Dear brothers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Some of the brothers had said that yesterday was previous lesson was not really understood, so they have asked us to repeat it and explain it further. Therefore, I'd like to explain that lesson again. But before we begin, I'd like to give a little reminder about what we have learned in the past, and that is about huruf asli and huruf zaid. I think some of the students might not have understood it because they might have forgotten the difference between huruf asli and huruf zaid. If you see a word in which there are root letters, those root letters are called huruf asli. For example, you see lots of words that have derived from a root word, and that root word in itself, the letters that are inside that word are called the huruf asli, or you can translate it into English to be the root letters. From those root letters, you sometimes you see that the word has changed into other words, right? Like, for example, it has turned into plural from singular, or like otherwise it changes into different tenses and verbs if it is a fi'al, right? For example, in a noun, if you see a word rajul, which means a man, right? Now, rajul is the root word of rijal, which is plural, right? So, rajul, re, jeen, and lam. What are these letters? These letters are called huruf asli, or these root letters are root letters, which are huruf asli, right? But then once you see that from these root letters, one extra letter has been added to ra, jeen, and lam to make it plural. From rajul, it turns into rijal, for example. Now, this alif that has been added, or this extra letter that has been added, is called harf zaid, right? So you have two things, harf asli and harf zaid. The plural of that is huruf, letters. One letter is harf, letters, huruf. Huruf asli and huruf zaid. For example, in the word katib or maktub, in katib, you know that the root letters are kaf, ta, and ba. Alif is harf zaid, ka, ta, ba are huruf asli. This was a very important reminder that you must keep in today's lesson. You must keep that in mind, right? Now, having said that, there are a few letters that have a name in Arabic. The letter waw, the letter alif, and the letter ya. If these three letters are root letters in a word, like for example in kataba, what were the root letters? Kaf, ta, and be, right? Ba. These three were the root letters. But for example, if you find in a word where you have one of the root letters that are from waw or alif or ya. Either of these three letters are in a word, the root letters, if they are the root letters, if one of them or two of them or all three of them, for example, are root letters in a word. Now these three letters are called huruf illa. Okay? If you find any of these letters to be root letters in a word, that word is called kalamai mu'attal. Right? Kalamai mu'attal. Now, if you don't find these three letters to be root letters in any of the words, then that word is called kalamai sahih. Very simple. Now, kalamai mu'attal, if you find waw, ain, or ya in any of the words to be root letters, then you can have, for example, the first letter to be, a root letter, or two of the letters could be root letters, waw, ya, or alif, right? Or, for example, first two letters or the last two letters. So therefore, all of these conditions have been given a name. Now, let me explain again. If you find in any word that the root letters, one of the root letters, are from waw or ya or alif, that word is called kalamai mu'attal. And if you don't find these letters in any word, then that word would be called kalamai sahih. Now, kalamai mu'attal has these conditions. For example, if, the first letter is either waw, first letter, which is also a root letter from which other words are going to derive, right? These are the root letters. Now, if the first letter is fe, so it's going to be mu'talul fa, right? For example, in the word wa'ada, like also in Urdu, you say the word wada, right? So wa'ada, first letter is waw. That's also not just any other letter, but waw is a root letter. Therefore, this is a mu'talul fa, because the first letter is always, you tally it with fe, and lam, right? You always have to tally the root letters with fe, and lam. For example, if you could remove that please for a while, the page, because I'd like to explain a little bit. Yes, thank you very much. You see, for example, you find the word kataba or daraba or any of these words, right? You're going to tally these words with fa, and lam. So kataba, ka is the first letter, and in fa'ala, fa is the first letter. Ta is the second letter, and in fa'ala, ain is the second letter, right? Fa is the third letter, and therefore in lam it's going to be, third letter is going to be lam, right? Kataba equals fa'ala, right? In the same sequence, now we're going to show you this chart again. Please look at the chart again. Can we have that page up on the screen, please, again, Jafita? Thank you very much. You're always so kind. Yes. Mu'tal. Yes. Now, if you can see, why does it say mu'talul fa? You can see the first example of the letters waw, alif, and ya. As I've said, if they're found in a letter, if they're found in a word, and these waw, alif, and ya are root letters, then it is kalama mu'attal. If the first letter is, for example, waw or alif or ya, what is it going to be? Well, if you tally with fa'ala, so the first is fa, right? Therefore, it is mu'talul fa. And this mu'talul fa has a name, and the name is, this term is called mithal. So therefore, the first example of mu'tal, the first example of these letters, waw, alif, and ya, which are huruf illa. First example is, if the first letter is from these three letters, the first letter over here in wa'ada, you see that waw is the first letter. Therefore, waw is equal to fa, right? So waw is equal to fa. Therefore, it's called mu'talul fa. And this mu'talul fa has a name which is called mithal. I think it's very easy. Have we understood so far? If we have understood, continue. If there is any question, I think what we have learned so far is very clear. Yes. So if there are no questions, we will continue. The second category, in the first category, we found that the first letter was from huruf illa, from waw, alif, and ya. Yeah. In the second category, we find the situation where the second letter, and the second letter is always equal to ayn. Like the first letter is equal to ta, the second letter is also equal to ayn, fa'ala, right? And the third letter is equal to lam. Now, if in a word you find that it's the root letters, the three root letters, one of those letters is in the middle, right? Is equal to ayn, like in hawl. Now, you see that half is a root letter, waw is a root letter, lam is a root letter. But out of these three root letters in hawl, waw, which is also a root letter, is also huruf illa, right? And it comes in the middle, and the middle one is equal to ayn, right? From fa'ala. Therefore, it is mu'talul ayn, right? Mu'talul ayn, which is named as ajwaf. And the third condition is, if the last letter, like in ramaya, yeah, or rami, or ramaya, over here you see that the ya, which is the last letter, you find that ya is from huruf illa, waw, alif, or ya, right? And the last letter, which is ya, is equal to lam, from fa'ala. In fa'ala, lam is the last letter. Over here, ramaya, ya is the last letter. And this ya is illa. This ya is also the root letter. Therefore, this third condition is mu'talul lam, because of fa'ala lam. Yeah? And that's called naqis. That's the third condition. Now, we have discussed three conditions, where the first letter is from huruf illa, or the second letter, or the third letter. Either the fa, or the ain, or the lam is a root letter, and also from huruf illa. Now there are three other conditions. What are those? Mu'talul fa and mu'talul lam. The first letter and the last letter. The fa and the lam. Mu'talul fa and mu'talul lam. Mu'talul fa wa lam. Fa and lam. Not the center one. Like in wafaya or wafay. Yeah? You see that waw is root letter. Also, huruf illa because it is waw. Mim is not from huruf illa because it was alif, waw, and ya. So mim is not. Ya, and the last one, yes. That one is from huruf illa. So that you find in this word two of the letters to be from huruf illa. The first one and this one. The fa and the lam. Therefore, we tell al fa wal lam. And the term used for it is lafife mafruq. Why is it called mafruq? Because there is farq, division, separate. Farq. Yeah. Two of the huruf illa are separate from each other. There is one other letter in between, which makes it apart. They're apart from each other. Yeah. Therefore, it's called mafruq. Lafif mafruq. Yeah. Very easy, inshallah. And now we come to the fifth example, which is mu'talul fa wal ain. The first letter and the second letter are from huruf illa. Like, for example, in wail, waw is huruf illa, also the root word. Ya is the root word and also huruf illa. So waw is also huruf illa, harf illa, and ya is also harf illa. Both of these harf illa are root letters, and they are the first letter and the second letter. Waw equals fa, ya equals ain. Therefore, it is mu'talul fa wal ain, right? And that is called lafif maqroon. Why is it called maqroon? Maqroon means close to each other, next to each other, near each other, with nothing in between to set them apart. That next to each other, joint. They call this called maqroon, like in whale. Yeah. Waw is huruf illa, harf illa, ya is harf illa, and the root letter. They have to be root letters to be called kalama mu'attal, to be called harf illa. If you find they're not a root letter, then you won't call them kalama mu'attal. It will be always kalama sahih, right? Now the last example or the last situation is mu'talul ain or mu'talul lam, the last one. That's the sixth condition. Yes. If you can pay them, people will be able to see it. That too is called lafife maqroon. Jeffrey Sab, if you can scroll the page up, please. Thank you very much. I think Jeffrey Sab is not listening. Anyways, I'll say, yeah, there you go. Thank you, Jeffrey. Lafife maqroon, same as the fifth condition as well. It's the same name, but then you find that the second letter and the last letter are from harf illa. Mu'talul ain wa mu'talul lam. You see the word hayya. Yeah. Now you see ha, the first word. Is it from the huruf illa? Ha is not from huruf illa because huruf illa is waw and ya. So ha is not from huruf illa. Therefore, set that aside. Now we come to the last two, ya and ya. It's come from the word hayaya, and they have merged into each other to become a single letter, which makes it hayya. Now, ya is obviously the last two letters are ya and ya, which are equal to, no, the second letter is always ain. So, mu'talul ain wa mu'talul lam. Mu'talul ain wal lam. But the same name is given as the earlier one, Lafife maqroon. Why? Because both of those two last letters, which are the root letters and also huruf asli, because they're next to each other and they're in, attached to each other, they're near each other, it's called maqroon. That's the last, example of the 6 examples of the kalama mu'attal. Now, we move on to the other conditions. If brothers know what Hamza is, Hamza, yes, if we can scroll down, please, if you could scroll down and we can come to the second kalama. The first kalama, we gave the example of Sahih and Mu'attal, right? Where you find huruf illa in them, root letters to be huruf illa, it's called kalama Mu'attal. But if you don't find any of the huruf illa in the word, it's called kalama Sahih. The other word is mahmuz and ghayr mahmuz, right? Kalama mahmuz. Mahmuz comes from Hamza, right? Hamza. If on top of that alif, the sign that you see is Hamza. Yeah? If you find in a word that one of the letters is the root letter, sorry, and also not just the root letter, but also Hamza. Yeah? You find Hamza to be the root letter of a word called Mahmud. See in this word Amara. The first letter is Hamza. There is Hamza in a letter called Mahmud. Over here, you see that the first letter, since the first letter is Hamza, which makes it Kalama Mahmuz. The other example is Sa'ala, right? The word Sa'ala. Seen, that's not a Hamza. You find there is a Hamza. La, there is no Hamza. Yeah? So Sa'ala. So that is the mid one is Sa'ala. Sa'ala. Yeah? Now, this makes it Kalama Mahmuz, or the last root letter. If there is Hamza, like in Qara'a, so in Qara'a, you see Qaf is not Hamza, Ra is not Hamza. The last letter is Hamza. That makes it Kalama Mahmuz. If the first letter is Hamza, the second letter is Hamza, or the third letter is Hamza, you find it to be the root letter of a word. If you find Hamza to be a root letter of a word, you call it Mahmuz. And if the root letter of any word is not Hamza, then it is called Ghayr Mahmuz. You see this word Allama over here in Allama, the first letter that you find, here's a tricky one. I hope everybody understands. It is Ghayr Mahmuz. Why? The Hamza is there. Why is it Ghayr Mahmuz? Because it is not harf asli. It's not the root letter. Right? It's not the root letter. Because it's not the root letter, what are the root letters? And, lam, and al, and mim. Those are the root letters. But not Hamza. Not the first one. Even though it's there in the word. But since it's not harf asli, since it's not the root letter, therefore it's still Ghayr Mahmuz. A word in which there are no Hamzas, no harf asli is Hamza, is called Ghayr Mahmuz. But if one of the words is Zaid, is extra letter, but you find it in a word, but it's not the root letter, then it's not Mahmuz, it is Ghayr Mahmuz. Kataba, Ghayr Mahmuz. Allama, Ghayr Mahmuz. Rakaba, غير mahmud. Nasara, غير mahmud. Yeah, so on and so forth. You can find millions and millions of letters, words that have the root letters, which, and you find that none of them are Hamza. Therefore, that makes it غير mahmud. Now, we come to the last one, the third type of a kalama, the third type of a word, which is number one, muza'af, and the other one, غير muza'af. What is muza'af? Scroll down, please. Further. Scroll down, please. Thank you very much. Muza'af. Now, if you find that in a root word, madda, yeah? Now, in madda, we have learned before that meme, and after meme, you find two of the dals have had a process called idgham, and that's urufe mushaddad, both of the dals. Why? Because the two letters have merged into each other to become one. Madda was actually madada. If you open madda, it will become madada. And if you find that the root letter in a word, two of the root letters in a word are the same and also next to each other, called mudaf. Very, very simple. Find a word, three letters are huruf asli. If the first two or the last two letters in thulathi mujarrad, in a three-letter word, if you find them to be next to each other, like in madada, the last two letters are the same, also next to each other. In madda, two of the dals are next to each other, attached to each other. Last two, yeah. Therefore, mudaf. And the next word that you see on your screen is then. Now here you find that the two dals have come in the beginning and are next to each other. The then, yeah. That also is mudaf. Kalama mudaf, yeah. Madda or the then. Last two, madda. First two, the then. Makes it mudaf. غير mudaf. If, for example, in a word, you find all three letters to be of three different kinds, not of the same kind, like in dadan or madda. In madda, you found that the letters were of the same kind and next to each other. If they're of the same kind and huruf asli and of the same kind and attached to each other, three conditions. To find these three conditions, mudaf, like in madda or dadan. Yeah. Now, غير مضاعف. If you find a word where all of the letters are of different kinds of letters. The first one is not like the second one. The second one is not like the third one. All three letters are different, like in kataba, like in Allama, like in nasara, like in wakala, or so on and so forth. They're called غير مضاعف. Now, again, if you have understood, I've written the word allama. Yeah. If you open that word allama, it will be, you'll find that there are two letters in it. Allama. Yeah. Like fa'ala. Now, you know that the root letters in allama are what? Ain, lam, and mim. Right? Why have I said that it is غير مضاف? Why is it غير مضاف? It is غير مضاف because only one letter is asli, the other one is Zaid. Therefore, even if you find two letters joined together, merged together, like in Allama, but two letters that are of the same kind, but not both of them are not asli. One is asli and one is Zaid. So therefore, it is still غير مضاف. Because in mudha'af, the condition is two of the letters, if they are the root words, number one, and also of the same kind, number two, and next to each other, number three. If these three conditions, if one of these three conditions does not apply, just is not there, is not visible in any of the words, then it is غير مضاف. Even if you find a word like allama, it is still غير مضاف. Why is it غير مضاف? Because as I said, if two of the letters both have to be asli, both of the two letters have to be asli, have to be root letters. In allama, one is asli, one is zaid. Therefore, it is غير مضاف. Therefore, I'll say it very quickly. I'll revise the whole thing again. There are three kinds of words. Number one, kalama sahih and kalama mu'attal. Kalama sahih, where you find that the letters which are the root letters and none of them are waw, alif or ya. Kalama mu'attal, if one letter or two letters, the first or the second or the third, or for example, the first one and the second one, or the second one or the last one, or the first two letters, so on and so forth. You find them that one of them is waw, alif or ya, then they are called kalamai mu'attal. If none of the waw or alif or ya are there in a word, a root, and none of them are root letters, and is kalamai sahih. And in the next condition, I don't know now, now that was the first condition. And in the second condition, the second word, I said, second kind of word is mahmuz and ghair mahmuz. Mahmuz is a word where one of the letters, or the root letters, is hamza. And ghair mahmuz is if none of the letters is hamza. And then I said muzaf and ghair muzaf. Muzaf, if two of the letters, first two or the last two, are of the same kind, like madda or dadan, then it's muzaf. If you find that a word none of the letters are of the same kind, then it is غير مضاعف, and also not next to each other, right? All right then. So alhamdulillah, I'm sure that it's a very easy one, and inshallah, hopefully everybody is enjoying it. And inshallah, as we move along, when we understand the different kinds of the words, we will carry on from here. And then once we understand the different kinds of them, we will understand how they are made to differ from each other. The root word, you find the root word, and then you find so many words that detach from that root word, and you find that they're derived from the root word to become another word, and then another, and then another. So once we, inshallah, get the hang of it, as we keep on learning and learning, and further on, you will learn to understand all of the words of Arabic, inshallah. The meanings of the words when you start reciting Qur'an, inshallah, once you open it, you will know what kind of a word it is, you will know the exact meaning of it, and inshallah you will start enjoying it. But obviously today was only the 6th or the 7th session, and so it's too early to do that now. But inshallah, because they're going to be a total of 120 lessons, for example, and so once you have done with it, inshallah, once you start reciting Quran, you will love it, inshallah. So I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that may Allah give us the strength and the energy, and also, the will and the love to understand the religion of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, and also, to follow the steps of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. And I hope I've made everybody understand this lesson, inshallah. And if there are any questions, I'm inshallah prepared to listen to them and answer them right now. Yes. Are there any questions? No? Are there any questions?
Thank you very much. Any questions?
Are there any questions, Jafar? I'm sure there are no questions. If there were any questions, then somebody would have asked a question. But I can give a suggestion that if you do not want to say it verbally, you can write it down. Or if you don't want to do it between the lessons or after the lesson, what you could do is you could share your question on the WhatsApp group that we have made. So inshallah, we'll take on from there. See you on the next lesson is going to be on Sunday. So see you Sunday, same time, inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much, Aghajan, and thank you everyone for joining in. Inshallah, we'll see you in the next lecture, which is on the coming Sunday. So thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.